Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. And this is the final one of this NBA season. I real quick want to thank y'all so much for supporting these recaps and my channel throughout this entire year. It's been a blast covering the NBA. Don't worry, coverage is not going anywhere. There's going to be a lot of fun off-season content like there was last year. A lot of historical look-backs on some great seasons, some really fun things that happened over the course of the league, some stuff leading into next season, the draft. Of course, reactions to free agency, trades, everything in between, so make sure to stay tuned to the channel all throughout the break between now and the start of next regular season. But for right now, we have to talk about the NBA Finals, which just wrapped up as I'm recording this video, with the Denver Nuggets hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy for the first time in franchise history. It's a monumental moment for the franchise, for the players on that team, for the fan base. If there are any Nuggets fans out there watching this, which I'm sure there are, congratulations to you. I hope I get that soon with OKC. Fingers crossed, but for right now, that is the title that Denver is going to hold heading into next season. And it was a wildly fun run. And this game in particular was kind of disgusting. It was some of the worst basketball you probably have ever seen. It was physical. Guys could not make shots to save their lives at some moment. No team could hit a three. There's some horrific fouls, a lot of no calls that felt like there probably should have been fouls, but it was all over the place. You know when you play pickup hoops and one team's at game point and suddenly nobody can hit a shot and it gets really physical? That's what it was like for basically this entire game, but there were some really fun moments. It was really back and forth. The Heat made it really close there at the end, but ultimately just fell short. They didn't have enough firepower, and I guess I'll quickly touch on their run before getting into, of course, the NBA champion Denver Nuggets. This was a miraculous run from the Heat that basically nobody saw coming. Like I said in my last video, if you saw this run coming, I don't believe you, to be honest. It was something that didn't seem possible at the beginning of the playoffs. And I know a lot of people have commented saying that this is a very similar roster to what they had last season when they went to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals versus Boston. But at the same time, they didn't play like that team the entirety of the season. And all of a sudden in the playoffs, they just flipped the switch, turned things around, took down the Bucks, managed to take down the Knicks, the Celtics, and made it to the NBA Finals, where ultimately they were just overmatched. This Denver team is a lot more talented, a lot better constructed. I think the Heat have a good foundation going forward. They were also, of course, missing Victor Oladipo and Tyler Hero basically this entire run. Tyler Hero was cleared to play in this game, but he didn't actually end up showing up. Probably was just not ready. I mean, he had a broken shooting hand. He hadn't played in about a month and a half. It makes sense that you're not going to throw him out there in a finals game where, again, it was incredibly physical. He probably would have hurt his hand again, so it makes sense that Spo kept him out. There are going to be a lot of people that look back and say that the Nuggets had an easy path and that the Heat didn't belong here, but they did. I mean, they took out all those other squads that people think would have had a better shot in the finals, and sure, maybe they would have, but the Heat defeated them, so we'll never know. It's a what if, and I hate thinking about stuff like that. So I give the Heat their credit. Jimmy Butler had a really fun run. In the end, I think that ankle injury really caught up to him in the fatigue. He was not great in this game, but he did show up really big towards the end of this game. He had a couple of threes. He got fouled on a three that was probably not a foul, but they called it that anyways. He knocked down some of those free throws. In the end, on the Heat's last big possession, he threw the ball away, which is kind of the play most people are going to remember, but he really did try to bring this thing back here at the end. He tried his absolute best. It just ultimately was not enough. Credit to some of the other guys on the Heat roster. Bam Adebayo should have silenced a lot of the doubters that he had coming into these playoffs, especially in these finals. He was probably their best player this entire series. Defensively, offensively, he was aggressive, taking advantage of any space the Nuggets defense gave him. He was incredible. He has earned a ton of respect from me over the course of this run, and I've always been a big Bam Adebayo fan, but if you've watched this channel for a while, you know that I really want to see him be more aggressive. This is the Bam that, if he plays like this, can be one of the top players in the league pretty much every single night. Hopefully he stays aggressive offensively while still playing his game-changing defense, and if so, then the sky's the limit for Bam Adebayo as he continues to go forward, and is still really young. This Heat roster has a lot of really solid players on it. I do think ultimately they need to get better to win a championship. I don't know if that means adding another all-star caliber player, if it means just bolstering the supporting cast. I'd be surprised if Pat Riley didn't pull a few strings to try and bolster this supporting cast around their stars heading into next season, so that maybe they're able to repeat this feat. But for right now, it was was a magical run from Miami. I think Heat fans should be really, really proud of the way that this team battled, regardless of the odds against them. Even when they were up against the number 1 overall seeded Bucks, they didn't cower in fear. They took them out in 5 games. People picked against them again and again in all these series, and they made it all the way to the end where they just kind of got overmatched by an absolutely stacked Nuggets roster. So credit to the Miami Heat. I want to show them a lot of love for this run. And now we can go ahead and get into Denver. And of course, when we talk about Denver, there's only one place we can start, and that's NBA champion Jeff Green. Shout out to Jeff Green for getting the title done, and also Nikola Jokic, who, of course, raised the NBA Finals MVP trophy. I don't think anybody is surprised by that. He was amazing this entire series, this entire playoff run. In Game 5 in particular, Jokic put up 28 points, 16 boards, 4 assists. He shot 12 of 16 from the field, played some really solid defense as well. It's just typical stuff Nikola Jokic has done this entire run. He has shown time and time again that he shows up in these big moments. He's earned the title of best player in the world, and I really don't think people are understanding just how amazing of a season this was from him. He nearly averaged a triple-double. He led his team to a really dominant playoff title run, and over the course of those 20 games that the Nuggets played, only 20 games in this entire playoff run, Nikola Jokic led the NBA playoffs in points with 600, rebounds with 269, and assists with 190, the first player in NBA playoff history to lead the field in all of those statistical categories, and he did it on unreal efficiency. And again, only 20 games. Their furthest series they went to was 6 against the Phoenix Suns, where in Game 6 they blew out the Suns. This was mostly a 4-game run for the Nuggets, yet Jokic was still able to put up these ridiculous stats. When he's out there, he's making an impact on every single possession that he's playing in. He lifts his teammates up. He elevates everybody around him. It's wild to think that before these playoffs, the whole narrative that a lot of people had was that you can't build a team around Jokic, that the defense is going to be too bad, that he wasn't a winner, and that's part of why he wasn't deserving of his past couple MVP awards. And I've talked time and time again about how that narrative is terrible, how it doesn't really make any sense when you take into account literally any context. But it's the NBA narrative circle. It's what you're usually going to get. And I'm happy that Jokic has finally dispelled all of those narratives that, again, did not make sense. And there's nothing you can say about him now because he's the best player in the world and he's a finals MVP, bringing a title to his franchise, which has never had one. I don't think anybody is going to argue when I say that he's the best player in Nuggets history. And he's really quickly rising up the all-time leaderboards. When you take a look at what he's done already at the age of 28 years old and how much more he can do, it's not hard to fathom Jokic ending up firmly in that top 5 center conversation, if not maybe even a bit higher than that, because again, he's 28 years old, he's a 5-time All-Star, he's made 5 All-NBA teams, he's a 2-time MVP, he's a Finals MVP, he's got a title, he nearly averaged a triple-double again this season, he's the best playmaking big of all time, some of the greatest offensive seasons we've ever seen. He's a force, and with the way this Nuggets team is positioned, they can be competing for titles for a really long time. Jokic is under contract for the next, I think, 6 seasons. Jamal Murray's under contract for a couple more years, and I don't see him going anywhere. Michael Porter Jr. is also locked up. They've got most of the supporting cast under contract too. Guys are going to want to come play with this squad. Probably the biggest loss they're going to suffer this offseason is Bruce Brown, who has a $6 million player option. I fully anticipate him declining that because he's going to make so much more money on the open market, and I just don't think Denver is going to be able to pay him what other teams are. So he's probably going to walk, but you still have a really great core. They've got some draft picks also going into the future. They didn't ever have to mortgage their future to bring in a high caliber star, so they've got most of their own assets, meaning that they're going to be able to draft guys to continue to build around this core of Jokic, of Jamal Murray, of Michael Porter Jr., of Aaron Gordon. This team's going to be really good for a long time, and when you look at that, the fact that Jokic probably will win some more MVPs, maybe another ring or two, some finals MVPs. He's going to continue flying up the all-time standings. I'm already seeing debates on my timeline about where he deserves to be right now. And there's so much more room for him and this Nuggets team to go. And that's part of what's so fun about this Nuggets team and about this run is that Michael Malone even said it himself after they won. He said, we're excited that we won this one title, but we think there's so much more out there for us. We want more. We don't want just this one. We want to bring the city of Denver multiple titles. And there's a good chance the Nuggets are able to do that because it is such a good squad led by, again, the best player in the world in Jokic. And the supporting cast is phenomenal. Jamal Murray was amazing in these playoffs. After missing the entirety of last season with that ACL injury and the last 2 playoff runs, Jamal Murray bounced back, had a really solid year, and in the playoffs, as he's always done, he completely turned up. All throughout these finals, he was amazing. He had 10 assists in each of the first, I think, 3 games in the series. He had a 30-point average on 50, 40, 90 splits in the conference finals. He was incredible. He is the definition of a playoff riser, and having him alongside Nikola Jokic is such a dangerous duo. Their 2-man game terrorized everybody in their path these entire playoffs. Michael Porter Jr. is a high-level shot maker. Now, he didn't make a ton of shots in these finals, but when the shot is falling, he is elite. And even so, he did a great job of hustling in this series. He played well on the boards, too, in this game. I think he had 13 rebounds. I'll go ahead and check that number real quick. Yes, finished with 13 rebounds, which I believe the broadcast said was his playoff career high. Aaron Gordon had an amazing series. He didn't do a ton in this game, but he was a force all throughout, just attacking the mismatches that he had because the Heat lacked size. He's amazing. The role that he's bought into here in Denver, going from a top 5 pick in the draft with Orlando and being looked at as maybe a future number 1 option to not really succeeding in that role. And now he gets shipped over to Denver. He's bought into being this high-level defender, a slasher, just all around a really smart player. He did everything for this team all throughout this series, throughout this playoff run. He's been phenomenal. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, now a 2-time champion, once with the Lakers and once with the Nuggets. I'm sure the Heat are sick of seeing him. He had the big steal on Jimmy Butler late in this game that helped them seal this thing. Christian Brown making big-time hustle plays. He won a championship at Kansas last NCAA season, and now he's an NBA champion. I think there was some tweet that said he was the first player since like the 80s to do that in back-to-back seasons, so shout out to him. Even DeAndre Jordan got in this game for 3 minutes, which was kind of crazy to say. No, he's an NBA champion. Jeff Green, after being on so many teams over the course of his career, is finally able to say that he's an NBA champion, and he was part of the rotation basically the entire way. I already shouted out Bruce Brown. Shout out to the rest of the NBA champions and Thomas Bryant, Vlatko Čančar, Reggie Jackson, Zeke Naji, Ish Smith, and Peyton Watson. Once again, shout out to this entire Nuggets team. It was a joy to watch them from start of the season to finish this entire playoff run. They just play such fun basketball to watch, like all the tough shots that they make, the crazy moments, the dominance in a lot of these games. It was a joy to watch. I really can't wait to see them play a lot more next season, see what they do in this offseason too. Can they retain a guy like Bruce Brown? If they can't, who do they add in his place to try and replicate some of that production? But again, most of this Nuggets team is just going to be the same going into next season. I expect a lot more dominance regardless of what they do between now and October when the NBA season starts. And for good reason, they're going to be the favorites going into next season to repeat as NBA champions. We'll see if they're able to do it. Again, I want to thank y'all so much for all the support on this channel over the course of the season. It was a really fun time making these recaps and talking about the NBA. Like I said earlier in the video, the content is not going anywhere. You're still going to get a ton of content over the course of this off season, whether that's talking about draft stuff. Whenever a big trade goes down or a signing or something, I'll make immediate reaction videos to those. I'm probably going to do a full live stream actually during the draft like I typically do, so be on the lookout for that. I think it's next Thursday, the NBA draft. I'll talk about some of the teams going into next season. I also like to do some like historical look back videos on some players' great playoff runs or MVP years. I already know I want to do one on Isaiah Thomas's MVP campaign back in 2016-17, so that's one video I'm going to try and get out soonish. I would like to do. I also have a full script written about an entire history of the Thunder video, so maybe I'll finally get that done. That'd be a really long, more like documentary style video, so we'll see if I'm able to pull that off. But if y'all have any ideas, let me know in the comment section below, or I usually have a Google form down there in the description where you can submit video ideas with your name, so if I use the idea, I'll make sure to shout you out in that video. But yeah, that's all from me from this NBA season. I appreciate y'all watching as always. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos going into the off season. Again, I appreciate y'all so much. I'll see y'all later. Real one safe back.